This video is brought to you by Slate Black Industries. For grips and accessories, visit slateblackindustries.com.
It's a fancy G3, but it has the power of Thor in it. So, stand by.
Let's do it, buddy. Impact! Neutralized! 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 Just a little short. Impact! Neutralize!
Oh, I am not going for the bonus.
Okay.
I grabbed the wrong magazine. I actually had a second magazine I doped it with just for a few rounds, and I grabbed it, and I realized it was a lot lighter.
Oh no.
And so I should have just rolled with it because I knew my drop, but in my mind, I had that instinct like, no, I need more ammo. I need more ammo for engagement. But that was a fun run.
That was
Again,
good. That was a good run.
Keep in mind, this is a stock G3, well, with some upgrades, the spur upgrades to it.
Yeah.
So I think it did something that a normal G3 could probably not do, with a better glass than the typical AK4D. But there's a lot to talk about. Let's see you guys in the debrief.
Oh, hello there. I was just deeply consumed with the excellence in Swedish optimization of foreign weapon systems. Now, all of these weapons were actually purchased through 9-hole reviews. And with the support of Slate Black Industries and our small community of patrons of Patreon, we've been able to bring to you these interesting takes on different weapon systems. And it's this small group of distinguished ladies and gentlemen, mostly, that become the driving force of 9-hole reviews. Emotionally, financially, intellectually, we owe it all to you. And for those out there who are considering becoming patrons, I'd like to invite you to become one of us. But we're also very happy to just hear from you in the comments section as well. We'll see you around.
Welcome into the debrief. That was AK4D on Speedway. And Henry, one of the things that you talked about extensively in your classic review of the AK4D and the modernization of the G3 was its ideal employment. And the two primary options being assaulter or marksman. And the conclusion, of course, was marksman would be the ideal employment. Mm-hmm. And here we have marksman work with the AK4D optimized.
I mean, I feel like it is a pretty good representation of what it could do. And when you compare this to some of the other systems that we've shot on Speedway so far, I'd say very effective, especially with ball ammunition. This was not done with match ammo. This was ball ammunition. And the internals of the G3 were largely the same, outside of the recoil buffer. Largely the same.
And so you mentioned the ball ammunition. That's one of the most interesting parts to me of how the AK4D G3 setup works, right? Is that it is shooting, it was 145 or 150 grain ball ammo, or 140, what is it?
148.
148. 148.
Basically M80
So it's
ball.
shooting, right, so it's shooting M80 ball ammunition, but it's shooting it dang accurate in comparison to, like, what I have seen shooting that same ball. Well, what does it do? It prints about a 2 to 2.5 inch group. Is that approximately what it's doing?
This particular rifle, it's about 1.5 inches, 1.5 to 1.8 with ball ammo.
Dang.
I mean, like people
really
need to
tight.
people need to understand, like, for ball ammo, that's pretty unreal. So went back and looked at some of the records, and it certainly was somewhere between 1.8 to 2-ish MOA that this rifle shot with ball ammunition. I wanted to come back just to correct this one thing that I said. It's still impressive of a grouping for a line rifle, just not as impressive as 1.5 to 1.8. Still means something. Obviously, it shoots well on the course. But we're back to the show.
I mean, my SCAR shooting ball is like 2.5. So the same ammo, the M80.
But at the same time, when you put like full power, like 175 to the the AK4D, it can shoot it. And mine is an older PTR that has the traditional G3 barrel twist. It can shoot 175 grains, but it actually shoots looser. So it's more like it shoots. Get this, it shoots cheap Wolf steel case ball ammunition better than it shoots the premium Federal Gold Medal match 175 grain.
Crazy. So it basically flips the script, right?
Correct,
So
yeah.
my SCAR is shooting a 2.5 inch group with ball basically down to 1 inch or just a little over 1 inch with match ammo. And you've got the opposite going on. You've got a 1.5 to 1.8 inch gun with ball ammo that then becomes what, like 2.5 to 3 inches with match?
Yep, exactly that. So it's not that it can't
Hilarious.
shoot match, but it optimizes towards ball ammo. I mean, look, I never hid the fact that, I mean, this is basically a poverty SAS or a poverty DMR. Like, that's what it is. Like, yeah, the Spur kit is expensive for civilians, but for a government that has stacks and stacks and stacks of G3s in their warehouse, it's way cheaper to buy kit and get it upgraded than it is to go out and buy a new SAS system that could easily be worth, I don't know, like 5 times the price for the upgrading kit.
Right. I mean, that's a big piece of the whole thing here, right? Is you have to look at the logistics and costs that militaries are paying to execute this, the changeover, right? I mean, that's ultimately what's driving that adjustment. Well, it just goes to show you that with the upgrades, with some decent glass on this thing, shooting ball ammo, you can be extremely effective. I think you only had like 1 or 2 misses out to 500 just for windage. And then at 650, you splash 2 just short. I mean, just short of the target. And then you're able to correct and slam it twice in the center. I mean, and when we took this same rifle out on the practical accuracy course, we were being a little bit more, say, deliberate about our shots, right? And we're trying to actually always score hits as opposed to go as fast as possible. I mean, you were able to clear 800. And again, I would venture to say that we would be able to push it to 1,000 without tons of issue. It might not be super consistent with the ball ammo in the wind, but you could definitely get there, I would say.
I think it it really depends on the environment for spotting once you passed 800. I think what we experienced in the practical accuracy episode was that I was sailing all the rounds behind and into the grass behind to where you couldn't really see the splash. If I were to, current me, if I were to redo that again, now with our time on range, I would have actually bumped it lower to see where it was dropping them windage-wise and have you spot those in order to correct it. So if we dropped it on 1,000 yard with decent surroundings for us to spot splashes, yeah, sure. I'm sure it could hit the target, no issue. But again, just M80 ball, it kind of runs out of steam at that 800 meter mark, so 900 yards or so. It kind of starts to get a little squirrely. Not 175s, obviously. 175s actually will continue. Now, the real question is, like, what if you drop 175s and take the 3 MOA penalty? Just take it. But you continue
It's just
with
such
that
a
velocity.
ginormous group then.
Yeah.
Then your cone of fire is just ginormous.
But at the same time, that cone of fire may still be smaller than a subsonic 147 grain being affected by wind. So this is getting into like some serious nerddom, because the G3, the vintage G3 and the AK4D system is just so different. It flips the preference for ammunition on everything that we've been doing so far. I think it takes a little bit of special consideration when you're thinking about things like that.
Well, let's transition into talking about recoil really quick, Henry, because it's something that we hit on quite a bit in some of our previous sessions with it, especially in the full classic video. So in some of the other videos, we talked about the recoil impulse and how the impulse on this platform is slow. And so if you're not tracking what we're talking about here, or maybe you don't shoot a bunch of 308 battle rifles, or even this is true of some 5.56 guns, you can feel the impulse and how it presses on you differently, even within the same caliber, with the same like theoretical amount of recoil coming back. And on the G3, the impulse is actually relatively soft for what it is, especially when it's outfitted in the AK4D configuration with this first stock and the internals. But you feel that push being slower, and as a result, the recoil and the sight tracking can be a little bit complicated. So for the assaulter perspective, it makes it a little bit more difficult to shoot and engage rapidly with the G3 or with the AK4D at close range, and being able to really track the sight and see exactly where it's going and get repeatable rounds. It's not really, though, an effect that you're dealing with on the long range, or at least it's not detrimental for you on the long range.
No, I think honestly, it as an assaulter, that recoil sensation, and if you watch it in slow-mo, you'll see the rifle fire, and it takes a while for the bolt to start opening, to come back and eject the casing. It's almost
and
like
then it sits, and then it sits at the back, right?
Yep. So you're getting the recoil impulse from firing. It's a lock breach at this point. You're feeling the initial inertia come back, and then the second phase of inertia, you feel the bulk carrier group, the heavy bulk carrier group, come back and hit the buffer, and then the third impulse is it going back forward and locking back into place, the heavy bulk carrier group. In practice, and talking to some people who use G3s a lot, the Portuguese, and to a lesser extent, the Portuguese mainly, I would say, who I talk to, it's doable when you get used to it, and you certainly don't shoot like we do, like bam, 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 bam. You don't control pairs like that. You let the rifle finish working first. But that's something that you are forced to do when you're in a marksman position. You are not trying to quickly drop pairs into your target. You are trying to fire, observe your hits or misses, and adjust to it. So you are forced to work with that recoil cycle. But, I would say, even though it has like this multi-step recoil cycle, you certainly feel that same recoil, almost kind of like if the SCAR and especially the AR-10s, like if this is a graph, recoil and done. The G3 is like recoil, plateau, and then done. So it's this really long, drawn-out process. And it's even longer than AKs. The SCAR has a little bit of that, but not really. It's just the SCAR has its own recoil sensation. It almost feels more like an AK than an AR, to be honest. But But that said, the G3 takes that just to a new level. Like you feel that sensation go for a lot longer, and then you feel a forward.
And that forward piece is actually really important. Like that's something that that description is really accurate and really well said. That forward piece is something that when I was shooting, I was noticing I was really struggling with that forward piece because I'd fire, the gun would come back, I'd see the sights lift, and I'd press the sights back down with my body, my front arm. I'd pull them back down, and then the bolt would be, or I would be applying the pressure to pull it back down to counteract where the sights were, and then that bolt would go back forward and go dunk, and I'd drop and drive the sight further down off of where I wanted to be. So
yeah, I think the big thing is when you're running a G3 system, you have to let the rifle finish working first, which in the grand scheme of things is like in a matter of milliseconds. But when we're used to running with direct impingement, internal piston, long stroke piston, short stroke piston systems, which are all like way faster than the G3 system, that's more complication for our minds to really wrap around it. And it takes away from years and years of practice that we have had in working these rifles. But again, when it comes to a marksman application, it forces you to do that. But one thing that we also observed, and I clearly observed, was the lack of bolt hold open. I mean, because when you compare the G3 or AK4D in this instance, compare that rifle to any other semi-automatic sniper system. You've got your AR-10 systems, the SR-25 systems. You've got your Scars. Even I would say FALs, and even I will say Dragunovs as well. All of them have a last round bolt hold open system. And this is one of those rare instances, because typically I would just, people complain about bolt hold open with MP5s. I'd be like, you got 30 rounds to figure out a problem, and you need to work ammunition management beforehand. Now, I've got to eat my own words a little bit here, because my mind was preoccupied with firing solutions. And so I didn't even think about bolt hold open, and I didn't even think about when to reload or anything like that. And when it hit me, was that fatal click. I was like, oh, just the world's loudest click, and you realize you just pulled the trigger on an empty chamber. And so the problem is, like, right before we shot, I usually true the rifle at like 400 just to double check to make sure the system's all working, the bullet drop is correct, my internal thoughts on wind compensation is also correct. And so then I had a magazine that was half loaded and another magazine that was fully loaded. And you see me start like grabbing random magazines. So ammunition management, the logistics side of things, of planning out an empty chamber absolutely is a thing for G3s. It is not as fire and forget as I typically would make it out to be if you're thinking about multiple firing solutions. So that absolutely is something that typically I kind of write off, but in this instance, I mean, it bit me. It bit me hard. I mean, I think I probably added like a good 8 seconds to that run because of that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, in staging ammunition, making sure, I could see how that could happen.
Yeah.
Like in a real world environment, I could see how if you were on like a defensive position, you had mags thrown everywhere, not on your person anymore, and you just grab the wrong mag. I could see how it could happen.
Josh, it's a rookie mistake. I mean, that's stuff that I would yell at privates for when I was in LT. Like that is a rookie mistake. I should not have made that mistake, but we were just chilling, trying to go. Let's see how this thing can do, and then onwards to the next rifle. Complacency. It hit me. That was my problem.
And there you have it. Henry is a rookie, and be sure to let Henry know in the comments section that he
Josh.
is a rookie.
I do have a lot to learn from many of our sensei ahead of us. So I'm definitely not anywhere. The thing is, when we come to the point where we're like shooting all sorts of different varied rifles with absolutely zero focus on what style. Like we're not even like dependent on the era, much less the nationality, the system of it. We've developed a skill of being a general shooter, a general purpose shooter, having decent skills to general purpose, apply it to different systems. But a lot of times, like I could see like a Swedish marksman would probably not make this mistake. I could see that a Portuguese assaulter would probably not make this mistake. This mistake for them means they would die or their teammate would die. Whereas for us, we're used to SCARs, we're used to the AR-15 systems. Who cares? You know, it's just another rifle that we shoot on the range. So this is not something that we actively push ourselves to do very often with... I didn't stage ammunition because I was like complacent with that because it wasn't a life or death situation. So when it comes to that, there's a lot of guys that we could learn from when you know, past the marksmanship stuff and past just the shooting stuff. A lot of this, you know, from a military perspective, these are basic soldier skills that I failed to apply. That's what it is. So for the senseis out there, yes, chastise me. Yes, tell me how I suck. I will do better next time. But as far as this, I hope this serves as a beacon for you guys out there who are in the position of being a defensive marksman. Stage your ammunition, make sure your magazines are topped off, and make sure that you know your sectors of fire and your range on your range card. So basically, despite all this, Josh and I agree that the AK4D absolutely is a better marksman rifle than the SCAR systems or the AR-10 SR-25 systems. Right, Josh?
When did we agree on that, Henry? We agree. Are we agreeing on it right now?
Yeah, we agree on it right now. Absolutely. It's a superior system to all of that.
Yes. Clearly. All right, gang. Thanks for those of you who have stuck around to the end of the debrief. As always, do the good YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. If you are so inclined, check out the Patreon and, of course, 9H Podcasts. And until next time, we'll see you on the range.
Cheers.
This is Steel 96, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Red Con 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel 96, this is 716.